turning a reel seat. It's been not dyed, but stabilized and cast. This is rotten oak that was stabilized, and then of course this is just good old resin right here. Got a good ways to go yet. Here we go. That's probably enough of that. I just thought it was really cool to see the little ribbons. Oh, I can't do that. I love seeing those little ribbons come off the piece. And so I thought I'd tape it. Why not, right? It's getting there. It's gonna be pretty. So we got a ways to go. The sanding process. Not exactly exciting, but we'll get this thing evened out nice and flat. And my turning was not perfect, so having to do some adjustment with sandpaper. The resin is actually a little harder than the wood, so it doesn't cut at the same rate, and that's why things ended up uneven. That's okay though, that's why we have sandpaper. Here we go. I'll do this through about 320 grit, and then I'll do the rest of it on the whole buffing wheel. I should have showed in the last video, you know, I always start turning with the lathe spinning like this. That's kind of only half of the process. Once you get that done, if you will stop your lathe and clean off your piece, and then sand with the grain instead of with the rotation, you're going to get a much better finish, much cleaner finish. You have basically no sanding lines at all. So that's a really important part of turning anything, I think. Again, this is a real seat, so this thing in the end has to be super shiny. And so it's really important to take this step. But you would do the same if you were turning a pen, if you were turning a bottle stop, anything that you wanted to turn and you wanted to put a really perfect finish on. If you had to sand, which I do, this is how you want to sand. Sand it with the lathe first and then with the grain, and you just end up with a much better product. I know there are lots of guys who can use a scraper or a skew chisel and they don't even have to sand. Well, I'm not one of those guys. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. Okay, next step. I'm going to square up the ends, and then I'm going to cut the rabbets for the hood of the reel seat will go here, and then the barrel of the reel seat will go here. So I'll video that and let y'all watch that, see if you like it. Okay, first I gotta find my parting tool. And like I said, I'm just squaring off the end. I'm just using my little parting tool here. Nothing to it. There we go. Okay, and here's the hood for the real seat. I'm looking for my pencil. Probably got buried up in all this. Oh, here we go. All the stuff that came off as I was turning. So all I do here, this is really, really easy. There's a little, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's a little divide right there. Let's see if you can, I get it to focus. There we go. So right there's a little divide. I'm going to line that up with the end of my real seat blank. And I'm going to mark it with my pencil. Okay. And then I just draw a line. Okay. I'm take a measurement, the inside of this thing, so I know how much I got to cut off. We'll turn the lathe back on. And I'm using a square scraper. I just want to cut this right out. There's some more of those cool ribbons. Yeah, that'll fit good. These calipers, these are old and beat up. And so they tend to be a little bit big when you're using their jaws. So that's why I cut it down a little bit extra. All right, and then we're going to measure 1 7/8 inches, and that'll be the reveal of the wood. So the part between the hood and the barrel. And lay that sucker up here. And honestly, none of this has to be perfect. As long as the reel is going to go on the rod, as long as the foot for that reel is long enough or short enough to fit in between the two parts, and as long as you have this down far enough for it to fit, it's not super critical that it be to the perfect, you know, 1/1000th of an inch or something like that. You know, it just close is good enough in a lot of this. So I don't know if you can see the little mark, but that's where we're going to cut this down for the barrel. Again, because I have these really cheap plastic calipers, I always turn my lathe off when I do measurements. If you had a nice metal pair, you wouldn't have to do that. This has got to go down a little bit more. I might have had a little chip out there. That's not good. I'll clean that up with some sandpaper. Not a huge deal. That ought to do it. Oh yeah. Okay. Now, let's see what we got. First, before we even take it off, we'll try the hood. And the hood's going to go on there just right. See that? Let's see if got this thing drilled to 3/8 and got it on a 3/8 inch steel mandrel. So we'll stay nice and concentric. Okay, where's my barrel? Okay. Ah, good deal. So obviously this is not aligned or anything like that, but this will give you an idea of the finished product. Let's see if I can get that to focus a little better. Yeah. And this is not polished yet. This is just sanded and turned. And when this thing gets polished, it will absolutely pop. Okay, still making reel seats. This next part of the process is super difficult, and yes, I'm being facetious. Here I've got my secret mixture here, which is not really secret at all. It's just about half mineral spirit and about half boiled linseed oil. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is the one that you guys watched me make, and in it goes. That's all there is to it. Here's the other one. You didn't watch me make this one, but for the same order. In it goes. Close the lid and let it sit for, I don't know, half an hour, just to let the oil sink in to the wood just a little bit. It's not going to do much because this wood's been stabilized, but it's enough to color the wood, and that's really all we're after. We just want the wood to have a little color, and then I'll let it dry and take it out to the shop and buff it, and those are done. The only thing left will be to glue the barrel and hood onto them, and they're ready to go on the rod. Okay, so it's the next day, working on my reel seats here, and I just want to show you yesterday. I guess the last video I had was me soaking it in the oil, and I know this light's a little funny, but hopefully you can see that it darkened up quite a bit. And so now comes the last part of the turning process for the reel seat, and I'm gonna buff it, and I'm gonna do triple E, white diamond, and then coated carnauba wax. And I'll kind of show you how that is. When I buff anything, and this goes with cawls or reel seats or anything of that nature, I always put it on a mandrel. Okay, this gives you something to hang on to, because what can happen very easily, because this thing's gonna be spinning pretty darn fast. I don't know how many RPMs. I don't really keep track with that. I do it kind of by ear. I listen to the engine, or the motor rather, and judge the speed by the sound the motor's making. But it's going fast, and so what can happen, and what has happened to me on more than one occasion, is if you do this by hand, like here's the other reel seat, and I'll go ahead and show you that too. You know, I'm kind of getting out of whack here. Yeah. See, I don't know where it looks the best, but it turned out pretty good. Anyway, if you hold this by hand and buff it by hand, a lot of times the buffing wheel will grab it, and you know the lathe is turning this way. And I don't know if you, well, yeah, you can see it in the video. This is the lathe bed, and so on my side, the wheel is turning into the lathe bed. So if this grabs, it'll take it out of your hand and it slams it right into the lathe bed. And a lot of times when that happens, it's with enough force that it'll dent your wood, it'll damage your finish. It's just not a good situation. So the best way to avoid that, no matter what you're buffing, if you can, put it on some type of mandrel, and that gives you something to hold on to, and it's not as easy for the wheel to grab. So anyway, enough talking. Let me get my gear back on and I'll show you a few minutes of how this works. I always wear a dust mask and face shield when I'm turning, guys. It's just too dangerous not to, in my opinion. So alright, that's trucking. Here's my bar of Triple E. And it doesn't take a whole lot. I probably use a little more Triple E than I do the other components. So here you go. Let's see what happens. And so you can, hopefully, you can see. Let me turn this thing off. Again, safety. Hopefully you can see that shined up quite a bit. And that's all it takes. It doesn't take much. Just real quick, white diamond. Like I said, it's exactly the same process, just a different wheel and a different medium. So yeah, just a little bit, doesn't take much. And what the white diamond's going to do is it's going to clean off the Triple E and give it a little harder shine, which is what we want. And that's pretty much it, y'all. I guess I'll go ahead and... But this doesn't take very long. Especially on something as small as a reel seat. Now, if I were doing an animal call right now, the buffing process takes quite a bit longer. Just more real estate that you have to buff. And generally, I have curves and shapes in my animal calls where this is just a straight cylinder. So this is really, really easy to buff. Oh yeah, there we go, that's looking good. So, once again, safety first here. And I don't know, again, how well my little phone camera's picking this up, but hopefully you can see we got a much harder shine now. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Alright, yeah, I'll just keep it rolling. We'll do the other one. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure how much you guys can see on my little camera, especially in this light. I know I got a lot of natural light coming out behind me. I'm pretty pleased with that. And so since the camera's rolling, I guess I'll just go ahead and tape how this all works. So I'm done with the white diamond wheel. So unscrew it from the little mandrel here. Put that away. Now this is my wax wheel. Screw it in. Now the wax needs to be applied at a much slower rate. Let's see if you hear the difference in speed. Like this is where I was. I'm going to apply my wax about right there. Okay. The bar is straight up carnauba wax. Just a bit. And here we go, same process. when you apply your wax, you have to do it with a light touch. So I'm not pushing into the wheel very much at all. Just kind of letting the wheel kiss the work. And what I'm doing when I come back here, and I know you can't see this on the camera, but there's a reflection of the light on my side of the work, and I turn it and I just see is that reflection consistent for the whole work. There's one little dull spot right here, so I'll take care of that. Just I don't think you can really overdo this. Well, I guess you could, but I think it'd be really hard to overdo this. So I just stick it right back in there and let it buff a little bit more. And I'm gonna call that good. Same thing with the other reel seat. We'll give a little shout out to Mike at Cane Rod Piper. Watching one of his pipe restoration videos and saw that he applied the wax at a slower rate. Because previously I'd been applying the wax at full speed, and I found that slowing the speed down for whatever reason really does make the wax look better on the piece. So thanks, Mike, for that tip. Here we go, looking at my nasty workstation. So here's the finished, well, the turning is finished. We'll get this closer to the lathe, that way it'll focus a little better. There we go, that looks good. Obviously I still have to glue the hardware to this. And that's a little bit of dust right there. I dropped the thing right before I turned the camera on. But that turned out really, really well. That's going to look really good on the rod. You got some nice pearl in there. So that's a piece of stabilized. This oak is so rotten. It's hard to believe now, but before I treated it, you could have scratched it with your fingernail easily. But it's been stabilized, and then the void has been cast, and it just turns out cool. I love doing that process. I use cactus juice and to stabilize an Alumalite to cast. And here's the other one, and again we'll get it close so that you can see it in focus. Like I say, I got a little blemish there, but I'm not worried about that because it's going to be covered up by the hardware. So you got that lovely shine. Sorry. And I think that's going to be a beautiful reel seat, and I think I'm going to have a happy customer, and that's what it's all about in the end. And just for giggles, I want to show you what this started off as. And I know I'm taking you around my nasty shop here. Where'd it go? Right here. Okay. So here's this is what the oak part looked like to begin with. And you see it's just completely rotten. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can pick up right there where my nail was. It's just gone. But that stabilization process, it just firms it right up. It makes it, I mean, better than you, honestly. So that was the original stuff. And then I'll bring you over here. This is what the blank looked like before I turned it. This is a piece of the same blank. So anyway, I had a visitor. Sorry about the interruption, but this is where the blank started. You got the old nasty oak, and then this is the cast Alumalite on top of it. And I drilled it and turned it, of course. And after polishing and turning and all that kind of stuff, this is what you come up with. Hey guys, this is Brian. Just wanted to take a quick moment and show you the finished results of the reel seats you've been following. Here's the reel seat fitted to the rod. It's not glued on yet or anything like that, but it gives you an idea of the end result. You can see I got the pearls reflecting there in the resin, and you can see the rest of the reel seat there. And that is what we call a completed product. So I just thought you'd like to see the finished deal. Thank you for watching, and y'all take care. Bye.